Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Secretary Fudge, let me start with a thank you to you. I brought to your attention a problem that we're having in Bangor, Maine, where I live, where the unsheltered population has grown enormously in the past 2 years. Part of this is due to COVID, but part of it is due to mental health challenges and to a growing substance abuse, particularly an opioid and fentanyl epidemic in my state. I want to thank you for agreeing to send your program people and your regional people to Bangor to meet with city officials to see what we can do to better help the city as it is being overwhelmed in trying to assist this homeless population. So thank you. I know that in addition to your role as Secretary of HUD, that you do serve as chair of the United States Interagency Council on Homelessness. And one of the biggest challenges that I see when we're dealing with more chronic homelessness or even shorter-term homelessness is the disconnect between housing and the wraparound services that go to the root causes of why the person is homeless. A lot of times that's a substance abuse or mental health challenge. What is the council doing to improve the partnership between housing and service resource providers?
We have a strategic plan that is going to be brought to us sometime next month. We are prepared, at least in my opinion. We have addressed what the problem is, and I do believe we have some solutions. When you think about the fact that already we have cut in half the number of veterans who are sleeping on our streets. We know now that a large number of people who are on the streets are senior citizens and families with children. So we at least know the populations we need to address, and we are working across government agencies to be sure that we can address it. So we're having input from HHS. We have input from other agencies that are going to be able to assist us with the problem. But I think when the strategic plan comes out, you will be pleased at the fact that we have looked at all of government and what we can do to make the situation better and provide the services timely.
Thank you. I hope we can keep in touch on that issue, which I care a great deal about. I wanted to follow up on an exchange that you and the chairman had about the unused vouchers and the fact that landlords are getting out of the Section 8 program, and so there's no place, as you put it, to take the vouchers. One of the problems is HUD's process for determining fair market rents. The process simply does not reflect the reality of housing markets in communities across this nation. And this is something we've heard about from public housing authorities literally all over the country. I want to give you an example. In Bath, Maine, the HUD fair market rents are 38 to 46% below market rents. Now, Bath Iron Works, which is one of our largest private employers in Maine, has been recruiting people to come work for the company which builds naval destroyers. And they are finding that they can't keep them, in part because they can't find affordable housing, despite the good wages paid by the shipyard. And HUD has allowed public housing authorities to request a waiver to increase their payment standards, which is the maximum subsidy value of the voucher, to 120% of the fair market rent without the burdensome and time-consuming review by HUD. But again, using Bath, Maine as an example, even those higher subsidy caps are still 26 to 35% below market rents. So what is HUD doing to better align fair market rents with the actual market conditions that the public housing authorities and renters are experiencing?
Thank you, Senator. In order to really do this the right way, HUD is really going to be required to issue a Federal Register notice. We have to have public comment in order to change the formula the way it should be. We make little adjustments, as you have suggested, but in order to do it the way that is needed, we're going to have to do that. So in August, we're going to be publishing a new fair market rate formula. So you'll see that happening in August, because you're right, and it's happening across the country. But we need to do it the right way, not just make little fixes or Band-Aids. We need to actually go and put it out for public comment and do it the proper way.
I hope you will consult with the public housing authorities, which I think have a very good handle on this problem. The chairman has generously said that I could ask another question beyond my time, so I'll ask one more before yielding back to him. I do want to go to the issue I raised in my opening statement, and that is the unexpended funds. I know a lot of these funds have been obligated, but they're sitting in Treasury accounts. They're not getting down to the grantees, to the people that we're trying to help. The CARES Act was enacted more than 2 years ago on March 27th, 2020, as an emergency response to COVID. And yet, as of last week, almost half of those funds remain unexpended. The American Rescue Plan was enacted over a year ago, and only 6% of those funds have been expended, including only $1 million of the $5 billion provided through the HOME program. And of the emergency vouchers, there were 70,000 of them provided by ARP. Only fewer than 20,000 of the 70,000 have been leased. What is the problem here? Why isn't this money, which was passed on an emergency basis, getting to the grantees and, more important, to assist the people it's intended to help?
Well, I think there were a number of problems, and you're absolutely right, the money has been obligated, but this is the major problem. Many of these communities did not have the capacity themselves, nor did some of our partners on the ground have the capacity to stand up these new programs and to get the resources out quickly. In addition to the fact that, thanks to Congress, they received an awful lot of money all at one time. So they were trying to, in their own minds, use the money that they needed to use first. So CARES and recovery money are 2- and 5-year plans. So that's why you don't see the money in their hands, but it is obligated because they have finally realized that it is time to put in place whatever their plans are going to be. But more importantly, I agree with you 100%. So every governor and every mayor I speak to, I say to them, you need to access these resources now. And they'll say, well, we've got plans, we've obligated, but I'm with you. And I say to them, this is a matter of sincere urgency, and you need to act as though it's urgent. But a lot of it was just they couldn't do it. They just didn't have the people, the capacity to stand up the programs. And now that they are, I think you're going to see the resources moving out much faster. That's why they're now obligated. I think you'll see them leaving Treasury fairly soon.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Senator Braun.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good to see you, Madam Secretary.
Good to see you too, sir.
So